Are you serious about your health and fitness, but overwhelmed by the conflicting information and BS all over social media? Welcome to Fit Facts, brought to you by Brandon Pascual and Gabe Erno. With a combined 10 years of training experience, this physical therapist and personal trainer duo bring you the most up-to-date and applicable fitness and lifestyle tips based on the most cutting-edge research, bridged with field experience of what actually works and is sustainable for the long term. Enjoy.
If a genie gave me 3 wishes, actually this is such a lie, I would not use one of my wishes on this, but I feel like one season wonders should be more of a thing.
Yes.
Like, plan it out, do a good job, don't try to make it a 7-season thing because you're gonna mess it up and ruin it. It's okay if it's one season.
And we'll feel invested.
Yes.
We'll feel compelled to finish it.
Yes.
All the while hating the episodes.
Yes.
It's dragging
Like,
on.
leave us wanting more. Don't let us abandon your show.
Like Shameless, this might be an unpopular statement, but Shameless, I got like through 7 seasons. I was like, I'm done with this.
Never seen it.
Never seen it.
Never seen it either. Yeah.
What's a one season wonder for you that was successful?
I wouldn't say it's a one season wonder, but I feel like Friday Night Lights was 5 seasons. They wrapped it up great. They did a cast change after 3 seasons that made it a little different. Like, I felt like they could have kept going and they didn't. Yeah. And that was the best call.
All the girls in my high school class were obsessed with Tim Riggins.
I'm still obsessed with Tim Riggins.
Did you ever see that show, Brandon?
I did not know.
It's like a small town Texas
Yes.
like football team.
Okay.
You know.
And Tim Riggins was dirty. He went to jail. He was perfect. He was the perfect
He was
man.
also very attractive.
He never
That might have played
showered,
into it,
and I was so into it.
Was it 7 seasons? Or
5
Five.
seasons.
Five.
5 seasons. But
Yeah.
like she said, they just buttered it up perfectly.
Most satisfying ending ever.
I thought that's how it was with Game of Thrones, kind of. Well,
I
you
never
didn't watch
watched,
Game of Thrones,
no.
but I remember you would always make the references.
Yes,
in class.
I know everything
Yeah.
about Game of Thrones. I've just never seen
Yeah,
it.
I remember asking, I was like, oh, you've seen Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones poser.
I know, right?
Welcome to Fit Facts, everybody. My name is Gabe.
I'm Brandon.
And today we have a very special guest. You might have already noticed there's someone sitting in between us, but this is Emily, and she is a nutrition coach, and we're going to dive into the wonderful world of nutrition, what it is to be a nutrition coach today. But first, we'd love to hear a little bit about your background. Like, what got you into nutrition coaching? What was your kind of intro into that fitness, that health space, and what ultimately made you want to, dive into the world of like helping other people with their nutrition goals?
I had kind of the stereotypical quarantine resurgence where I was like, I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing.
What were you doing?
I worked in marketing for 10 years. And I was a personal trainer in college, studied nutrition and exercise science undergrad, and kind of wanted to come back to it. So I quit my job, did precision nutrition, did the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and then started my business.
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
So that was something where you'd always been into the fitness lifestyle, always been into nutrition and everything, but it wasn't until you realized I need a career change when you really dove all the way into it?
Yeah, I just felt like I needed something that fulfilled me a little more. And
Totally.
Nothing fulfills you like interviewing people in every aspect of their life as a job.
Yeah.
Without being a therapist, because that was like too much school for me.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel like, I'm sure you go very deep with what you do,
yeah.
but some
I
of the
definitely
stuff...
go out of scope.
Really?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, being a
But it all
therapist...
relates. Like, it really does, because we use food to self-soothe, right? So it's like, if you're having problems with your nutrition, probably something's happening in your life where you're not aligned. So.
100%. Yeah, emotions, stressors, everything plays into that for sure. Okay, cool. So then how did that start? You just decided I'm going to be a nutrition coach. You got these certifications and then you just kind of jumped into it, or?
Well, sorry. I should back up for a second. I was having a midlife crisis. Not a resurgence. That was the wrong word.
Maybe like a quarter life crisis?
I was 30. Sure.
Well, you're going to live long. We got a lot of technology.
So I met with a career coach. And she made me do all these assessments based on my personality, my skill set, what I liked doing. And she was like, you're meant to be a business owner and you need to do something you're passionate about or you will forever hate any job that you're in. So she was the one that kind of like pieced together a couple different avenues for me to go down. And then once she was like, you could try like health and nutrition coaching, I was like, actually, that makes so much sense for me. I don't want to ever be in like a board meeting again. I don't ever want to wear real pants again. I don't ever want to work in corporate America again.
Yeah.
So then from there, I kind of set up the steps to go about that. And I launched my business in April 2021.
Congrats, that's so
Nice.
cool.
Thank
So
you.
it's been a couple years now. Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of learning lessons along
I'm
the
sure.
way. When did you guys start your businesses?
I didn't go full time until this past January.
Really?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
was like kind of like part time since like end of 2020.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
July, either 2021 or 2020. I've been self-employed for like a little over 2 years now.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that we know we're neighbors and we're passing ships in the night, we basically started our businesses at the same time.
I think the universe is just, it's putting us really close to each other. So for you, Emily, like what is a nutrition coach? Like obviously, there's people who have degrees in nutrition, but they don't necessarily coach people.
Right.
There's people who coach people in nutrition and they're not necessarily qualified. But you obviously got certifications to make sure that you had the ability to like actually change lives, know the science, know what's gonna help with effective behavior change. So like, what is that for you think?
Well, I think a lot of people are confused about what a nutrition coach does, right? Because people think it's about food science, right? And I'm sitting down with people being like, these are the micronutrients in a sweet potato and why you should eat it, right? That is not what I do. You can go online, you can find a meal plan, you can find out any of this information, but that doesn't matter if no one's helping you implement it in your life, right? So like you don't actually need to know that much about food. You need to know how to make behavior change, right? So I will sit with someone and I will walk through like, okay, like what are you doing in the morning? When are you going to bed? When are you waking up? Do you exercise? What is your stress like? Are you sleeping? And ask them all of these questions to start to piece together like, okay, so we know that you're eating out 3 times a day and you're also drinking like copious amounts of coffee because you're not sleeping at night. So like where can we start to like dive in and like slowly over time make changes to get you from, where you are on the particular spectrum of nutrition to like a little bit more on the healthier side. And I will say I'm kind of in an area where like my audiences are very different. I definitely help people with weight loss, that's part of it, but I also help people healing their relationship with food because a lot of people have kind of messed up habits from the late 90s, early 2000s where we heard a lot of damaging messaging about food and like people had this thought that they should eat as few calories as possible,
avoid all fat.
Yes,
kind of thing.
non-fat, like
No cholesterol.
no cholesterol, like eat these like fake air foods. And then we know that backfired, right? And like, of course, extreme dieting doesn't help anyone, but like that was just what was trendy at the time and what we thought to be true. So I also really enjoy helping people reverse their thought process when it comes to food and start to realize that like eating something that is high calorie isn't necessarily a bad thing because calories are a unit of energy and we need energy. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, honestly, that's pretty well explained. Honestly, just because like it's very similar to like what me and Gabe do.
Yeah.
Me more for like people with pain. Some people could like Google or use an AI now to make them their own workout program for whatever their goal is to lose weight, gain muscle, to relieve pain. But will that AI actually help them implement those like lifestyle changes or that program in their life right now?
Right.
So that's where we come in as professionals.
And it's like obviously watching form, but also like being accountable to someone, right? Like that's another thing that I do as a nutrition coach. It's like, yeah, you're gonna be on your own for a week. Like I'm not in your kitchen cooking for you. I'm not at the grocery store as you're making decisions, but like I'm gonna ask you how your week went. And I'm not there to judge you. I'm not there to shame you. Like I'm genuinely curious as to why you made those decisions. And like I'm not anti any food. Like if you went out and got ice cream, I celebrate that for you. I love ice cream too.
Yes.
And it's more just figuring out like why you're doing that and talking through it with someone to help you stay on track and like keep making the decisions that are fruitful for you.
I see. Yeah. 'Cause go ahead.
Just like ultimately, like you're saying, like all of these areas, pain, making progress in the gym, your nutrition goals, those all are so tied to our mental states, like black and white thinking. Are you a perfectionist? Do you feel like it's either like you eat these foods and you're perfect or you just have to binge eat?
Right.
Same thing with the gym. You go to the gym 5 days a week or you don't go at all. You're in pain or, like it affects it all. So it's interesting how you have to really like dive in and just understand these people's kind of like mental processes.
Yeah. That's my favorite part. I love psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know, like, I know we talked about, like, I think when you came into the gym once, where how you kind of dig into the root cause of why people are like snacking. Because I give you an example, when I used to take personal training clients, I tried to like figure out like why this client was like snacking so much, and we pretty much got to a point where he said that he was snacking because when he was younger and his dad like passed away, his dad would always give him snacks, so he kind of sees that as like a comfort thing.
Yeah.
So what questions do you use to kind of lead up to going into that before, like, you know, assuming, oh hey, are you snacking because of something from your childhood, or do you kind of have a series of questions?
It's funny. I mean, obviously, I try to incorporate the question why in several ways.
Yeah.
I don't lead clients down like a formal list of questions. I very much adapt to the person's energy, and like I am someone that can pick up on body language pretty quickly. So like I can tell if someone is when they're talking about their childhood or they're talking about their job, if that's a point of stress for them, and then I know to dig into that area, which is like a terrible answer because I can't give you any specifics other than like I literally make it up as I go along.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think are like the common ways, like, or first of all, for you as a nutrition coach, what are the common like unhealthy eating habits for the common clients, and also like what are the common root causes that you've found out?
People who either don't eat breakfast or eat a very light breakfast because they're trying to start off their day in a calorie deficit usually always backfires because then by the end of the day you get home from work, you're exhausted, you're stressed, and you know, either do takeout for dinner and eat excessive amounts that you wouldn't otherwise eat, or you have your like perfectly planned out dinner and then you're snacking until you go to bed, right? So I always say, like, as best you can, start to fuel yourself at the beginning of the day, right? And then from there, you're set up to not make decisions out of a ravenous state. You're set to make decisions out of a fueled state. So off the bat, breakfast is very important. Also, people who are just scared of food, I see that all the time. Like people afraid to eat things like avocados that we know are higher in fat, or like
peanut butter.
They only will eat PB2 or something, right?
That's that powder one, right?
I mean, some people like it. It just doesn't hit for me. Like, give me peanut butter on a spoon. But I would say people who like are just have these fear foods and they feel like they're forbidden, and then it sets them into a really negative mind state around food, where like you get into that kind of like, you know, Monday through Friday, I'm eating my like safe foods. I feel really controlled. And then on the weekends, once I have 2 drinks in my system, it's like all hell breaks loose because I am afraid of these foods and I feel like I can only consume them under like an inebriated state or something like that. It's a very extreme example, but I do see it from time to time.
I see that a lot too. And then like people feel so bad about themselves. They feel like they like moralize it, so they're like, I'm a bad person now because these foods are bad for me, and it's like, no, you can have those in moderation. You don't have to feel like, oh fuck, I messed up, now I'm just gonna go balls to the wall, you know. But people do that. So those are kind of a couple of the common things you see. And one thing I'll say too is I've noticed with the breakfast thing, people who do intermittent fasting, it works for some people, but like most of the people I see who try it end up just like way overcompensating when they end up eating and like maintaining or even gaining weight. So it's kind of another thing.
I agree, right? Like anytime doing extreme things makes you feel productive, right? It makes you feel like, oh, I have an edge up on someone because I'm doing something extreme. But like in order for that to work, you have to be really consistent with it. And like you're telling me for the next 50 years, that's how you're going to eat? I don't think so. And like it's generally something that's more successful for men because women have so many different hormones, and especially with our cycle, we actually should not be going long periods of time without eating. So in order for a female to successfully intermittent fast, you kind of have to plan it off of different phases of your cycle, which a lot of people don't know. So I forget the initial question.
No,
that is interesting how like, so when you work with female clients, do you kind of plan like their meals or their healthy eating behaviors during their cycle or like within their cycle?
It depends on what level the client is, right? If it's a beginner client, we don't even really touch that. But it's like figuring out and making sure that people are eating enough. And that comes into play with different parts of your cycle, right?
Okay.
So like I'll keep an eye on that, but I wouldn't say I do anything super like scientific in terms of like calories per part of the cycle or something, because I'm not a big calorie counter.
Okay, yeah. That's what I asked. Well,
yeah.
Would you have someone like on their cycle date? Would you like have them like eat a little more? Or okay.
Basically, it's hunger, fullness, attunement, right?
Okay.
So, and as a woman, sorry, I don't mean to like bring this into
right
girl
go
stuff,
for
but
it.
like sometimes right before your cycle, you just get ravenous, and right, and it's like I could try to starve myself, or I could just let myself eat according to my natural hunger that day and satisfy myself and just move on and know that like my body's telling me that for a reason, right? So I would never tell someone like, oh, if you're super ravenous this day and you know your cycle's starting in 2 days, like don't listen to it, right? Like no, you should listen to that because your body always knows how much food you need better than any sort of app or equation. So that is what I coach.
Yeah,
I like that because it's like, even as like a physical therapist, because I noticed like a lot of my female patients, they get flare-ups with like the pain that we've been dealing with for like months during certain weeks, and they would tell me it's during their cycle they get the most flare-ups, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I recently just started to pick that up, and I'm like studying more about it.
Interesting.
So it's nice to kind of like keep that accounted for.
Yeah, the body is so cool.
Right, yeah. But back to that original question, what do you think are like the, or what do you see are the common root causes of like why people are like skipping breakfast, why people are avoiding, fat, avoiding peanut butter? And other stuff?
I think, like I said before, damaged messaging from like any magazine that you've picked up in the past like 15 years or any show you've watched, right? That'll convince you that like, any food you eat is going to make you fat. It just puts people in a state of fear. I think also people are stressed and emotional, right? And sometimes you find control over food, which is a really weird thing. So it might be like you're trying to control your food really strictly because you feel like you have no control over your work life.
Very
right?
interesting, actually.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
And that kind of plays into one thing we want to talk about a little bit is like, speaking of all the things people struggle with, I don't know how common it is in your experience, but a decently common one would be orthorexia. I know I'm following in your footsteps right now, taking the PN certification, so I'm learning about it. And it sounds like you've worked with some clients who have this, so maybe like tell the audience.
I've had it.
Yeah, and looking in the past, I've experienced it.
I've had also.
Yes.
I think all three of us have had it.
I think it's very common.
When you work in this space.
In this space, there's like this extra pressure, and you're around people who are obsessing about health and everything. So yeah, maybe explain to the audience like what orthorexia is. I know there's a legit definition. You don't have to be overly specific, and then we can just go into like some facts about it and how to deal with it.
Yeah, I would say my kind of non-scientific definition would just be like when you're overly obsessed with making choices that are very, very health-driven and you live in a state of fear that if you're not 100% like clean with your choices, that like something bad is going to happen to you, right? And so it can be like this really dangerous thing because you feel like if you're not doing these extreme things that like you're a bad person or you're attaching your self-worth to the choices you're making in health and fitness when really like that's just one part of your life, right? Like you're a whole person outside of what you do in the gym and what you eat, but it's like that's just something that you can hyper focus on and try to have control over. And
then there can be extreme negative outcomes, like even maybe like your body is fine, but you're so fixated on it that like now your body's not fine because you're stressing yourself out so much. Or, I know for myself, like looking back, I grew up eating a lot of like organic foods and stuff. Like my dad owned a health food store when I was growing up, and I remember as I got older, there was like this point when I had like some acne in high school, like, and I realized like, okay, if I reduce my sugar intake, I break out less. So I started doing that, but it got to the point where I wouldn't eat any sugar at all, even fruit, even an apple, no ketchup, like anything. And I remember one time I was like hanging out with some friends, and I had like a bite of a piece of candy, and I almost had a panic attack. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to break out. And like that's kind of the same thing, I think, right? Where you're just like, you just get so fixated on eating this perfect way that you think is going to lead to certain outcomes that if you don't do it, it just takes a huge emotional toll.
And it's super isolating too, to feel like your decisions like are different from everyone else's and you have to like operate in this set of rules or like something terrible's
like you're going to start saying no to like friends that usually hang out and go get food with on weekends, and you're like, oh no, sorry, I'm going to eat at home.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of just stay home, and then you won't see them for a long time until you kind of get over that obsession of like, oh hey, I actually don't have to keep eating, you know, home cooked meals. I can go out and eat once in a while.
Yeah, I have a story about that. So I went to college in Washington, D.C., and my friend's parents came to visit, and we would always go to this like this Mexican restaurant that was like a cruise ship. It's called L'Oreal Plaza, but they would always bring out like chips and salsa, and I would remember like I would be invited to go out with them, and I would say no because I was afraid of overeating the chips and salsa.
Oh, I see.
And I thought that was like very aspirational at the time. I'm like, look at me, like I'm making healthy choices. And now looking back, I'm like, that is so not okay. Like I was just sitting home alone while my friends were out with their parents because I was afraid of chips and salsa. Like that's not normal.
That's funny.
People can be so hard on themselves.
Well, but it's also like sometimes those choices and like that way of living is glamorized in society. So like you don't almost know that you have a problem until you step out of it. Like I think about how I was in college, and I'm like, I was so insufferable, and I had no idea. But looking back, now I'm like, okay, I think I've grown.
And I don't know about you, but for me, like when I, specifically with the gym, when I had that like all or nothing mentality, I remember like getting off of work and it was like 1 a.m. and I was like, I still have to get my lift in, and I lifted till like 3 a.m. instead of just waiting till the next day to like make it up. And like now that I'm more flexible with myself, I'm able to be more consistent and make better progress. Like my progress is better now that I'm not like having these overly rigid standards.
Like you don't actually have to do 2-a-days. You don't have to go to the gym 7 days a week. You can actually rest. And then when you are working out, you're more productive and you can apply yourself better because your muscles have rested.
Same with eating. You eat more fuel, you have more fuel to get better workouts, to feel better, more cognitively there. Yeah, totally. So one thing we mentioned, and we don't have to dig too much into this, but how do you know if you meet the requirements? And I know you know some of the stuff, but I brought the book too.
Oh, look at you.
Because I thought we could go over that a little bit.
Yeah.
So like this is the assessment, right? The orthorexia assessment. So yeah, maybe just what are some of the more important ones that you think like are common here?
I think if you're someone that collects extreme data like all the time, right? Like I've definitely run groups, especially for Performance 360, that are more macro counting based, but it's very much in a like, this is for 6 weeks and it's for learning. We're not telling you to eat like this all the time. But if you're someone that tracks and like looks over that data all the time, that can be a sign that like you're being a little bit obsessive about it. So off the bat, that's one of them. And like the constant worry and anxiety, that's what I see a lot with clients, right? Where like they come to me and they almost treat me like church confessional, where they're like confessing their food to me because they felt so worried or anxious or stressed about what they ate. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like you're a human and humans eat macaroni and cheese. Let's just talk through this a little bit and like get you to realize that like you shouldn't feel guilty about that. Like you didn't murder anyone, as far as I know.
They didn't tell you that. The body's in the trunk.
Allegedly.
But
the body's in the trunk along with their ice cream.
I would say if you're overly sensitive about being stressed around certain foods, that's kind of a sign. Alone when having meals, the
alone when having meals, because there's like a shame that people associate with it, right?
But
totally.
And I'm not here to diagnose anyone, but like if you are someone that feels really stressed out when you eat, that could be a sign to like work through some stuff. So
you mentioned like a deep health connection when we were talking earlier. Like how does that come into like fixing all these things, or not fixing, but just like improving your life?
That's kind of one of the performance or the precision nutrition tenets that they follow, deep health coaching, right? Which is something that I try to take into account with like every client. So it's assessing not only what you do for physical activity and exercise, but like existentially, relationally, emotionally, mentally, what is your health like?
I see.
Because like to my point earlier, a lot of people are using food to self-soothe, right? If you have problems in your relationship, if your environment is not set up for success. Like, you're never going to be successful with your diet and your physical activity if other areas of your life are lacking, right? So that's why I take my little flashlight and I like shine my light on other areas of your life, because that's probably the basis of your decision making, is something external from your diet and your exercise.
You're probably not going to achieve your nutrition goals if you're sleeping 2 hours a night.
Exactly.
Even if you're trying as hard as you can.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally.
And if you're, working 16 hours a day in a very stressful job, it doesn't matter how perfect your diet is.
Yeah.
Like, your body is holding on to cortisol, and so you're not going to see fat loss, right? So it's like thinking about, like, obviously I can't take a client and be like, I'm going to delete all your stress today and like you're gonna be good, right?
Yeah.
But it's like slowly managing that stress and figuring out even like small tools, like setting app limits on your phone, so you're not Instagram scrolling until 12:30 at night when you needed to go to bed at 10, right? So it's like small things like that add up over time, and like ultimately you need to make sure you have a good foundation for your health. And a lot of people kind of focus on things like supplements or intermittent fasting or like extreme things that kind of belong at the top of the pyramid, and don't focus on like, do you laugh? Like, that's an important part of health.
Like, they'll ask you like, oh, should I go with keto? Should I try keto? And then they're like getting the 2 hours of sleep, drinking like 5 times a week, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually, you brought up one point where I think it was like earlier where you said like people, they'll start doing these unhealthy eating behaviors because they feel like they have control there, but they don't have that much control in their life. Yeah. So I feel like I could actually relate to that, because right now I can't work from home, because when I work from home, I see my dog and I see like a bunch of chores I have to do. Yeah. And then I see my long to-do list I have to do for my business, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the kitchen real quick, and then I'll literally go and grab like Magic Spoon cereal. By the way, you know Magic Spoon cereal?
I've tried it.
Okay, yeah,
I wouldn't say it's my favorite.
Yeah, that's a side note right there. But yeah, I'll literally just go in the kitchen, just grab Magic Spoon cereal, and maybe even like a yogurt or like something random, and come back and go to my desk and be like, long to-do list, you know what? I'm gonna go back in the kitchen real quick. And then I realized like, I think I'm just getting overwhelmed from this long to-do list, and that's why I kind of like stopped working from home and just like work in my office now.
Yeah. So like, if I were your coach, I would ask you, when you're going for that snack, what problem are you trying to solve? Right? And it's like, you're maybe not like actually
maybe
hungry.
Like a quick win, or I'm bored.
Maybe. Right? Like, that's not going to make your work go
overwhelmed. There you go.
Yeah. Nice. So it's like, then you have to dig into like, okay, why am I overwhelmed? Like, what would be better? Like, I just like, is it the amount of emails that are like in my inbox that are overwhelming to me? Okay, like maybe I need to time block on my calendar better, or whatever. It's a whole thing. But like, then we address that versus like, you're not actually hungry. It's not like you're trying to fit in your calorie requirements for the day. Like, now we're talking about your work life.
That's good conversation right there.
Definitely. So for you, Emily, if you had to just share one thing, if you came onto this podcast and you could only share one thing about nutrition with the audience, does something stand out? Or are you like, okay, I think this is that thing I would share?
Yes. Do less.
Do less.
Everyone do less.
Yes, okay.
Like, to my points earlier, stop being extreme, start sleeping more, start cooking at home more, start eating foods that satisfy you versus what you think you should eat, and just try to relax a little bit about food.
The basics are foundational for a reason.
The basics are the hardest things to work on, but where you'll see the more fruitful progress, right? Because anyone can take a pill that has iron in it, right? But like, that's not something that teaches you anything. It's like learning how to manage your life in a way that sets you up for success. So do less.
You heard it, everyone. Throw away your fat burners. Throw away your BCA 2000 extreme pre whatever. You don't need that.
Put your head on your pillow. That's all you need.
I like that message, because there's so
drink
many, like,
water.
Right? There's so many trends. I feel like I'm pretty sure your clients come in with like the latest trend from like TikTok or Instagram. Like, okay, I tried this diet, or what about this certain supplement or this peptide, something like that.
And it's so funny, like, what goes viral and like what doesn't. But like something like girl dinner, like, I actually kind of like the concept of girl dinner.
What is girl dinner?
Sorry.
Okay, so I did delete my TikTok recently because it was getting too extreme. But I haven't actually been on like girl dinner TikTok, but from my understanding, it's like when girls eat just like a bunch of snacks for dinner, and so it's not like an actual meal. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna put like my pretzels on a plate and like some grapes and like basically my own little charcuterie dinner, whatever like snacks I want.
It's like what we have right there on the table.
Exactly. If you put that all on one plate, it would be girl dinner.
Oh, okay, all right.
But a lot of people are saying like, oh, this is promoting like eating disorders because you're not like you're afraid to eat a meal or something. But I'm like, if it satisfies you and it brings you joy, do it. Like I don't care. Like there's no rules. Everyone will try to convince you that there's all these rules we have to follow. Like this is a breakfast food, this is a dinner food, but it's like you can be creative with it and do what works for you. So if a plate of snacks makes you happy at night, then like do it.
That's so
100%.
true. Honestly, some people always like every time I tell them, oh, I had chicken or ground turkey for breakfast, they'll always be like, what the hell? Why don't you just have eggs or like waffles? Or something.
Well, you like it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. I'm like, quit judging me.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
I have 20 more push-ups.
But yeah, it's like whatever works for you isn't going to work for me, isn't going to work for Gabe.
Yeah.
We all need to figure out our own systems because nutrition is a very individual thing. So just because someone that you admire does something, or someone, even like your own sister or brother that shares DNA with you, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You're your own person. But I think a lot of people are scared to be their own person and just want to follow something and feel like someone's telling them what to do.
Yeah, it can like take some of that responsibility away, which can kind of feel good initially because you're just like, oh, an expert. I'm doing what the expert says. And you don't have to dig into the deep, dark recesses of your mind. Totally. Emily, I am an audience member. I've been listening to this podcast. I'm like, wow, this
You
woman,
told me no one listened to this.
this woman knows what she's talking about. You know, I want to hire her. I want to dig into my own, life and achieve my nutrition goals. How do we reach you?
Nutrition Coach M on Instagram. Just send me a DM. It's the
Link in the
easiest
description.
way. Yes. Yeah. That's it. That's really it. Obviously, I have a website and email. No one uses that. Just Instagram's better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to tell the audience about like your services or just, anything you just want to get off your chest right now?
Shout outs.
Oh, that's a lot. Why is
Shout
that the
out to
hardest
Jesus.
question?
I know.
asked me?
It's the hardest question.
Shout out to the writers of Friday Night Lights.
Oh, okay,
for
there we go,
wrapping up their 5 seasons.
I agree.
With a bow.
Nice.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. I think this might be my favorite episode we've done so far. Please don't get mad at me, other guests.
Honestly, I wish I had a notebook because I was learning a lot. I was like, oh, yeah. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. So the other guests, we'll have you back, and you got to step up your game now
Oh
to reach, this level.
The other guests.
But if you enjoyed the episode, please rate us 5 stars on Spotify, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, leave a comment, and if you want to reach me or Brandon, our Instagrams are in the description as well. Until next time, we are Fit Facts. Peace.